It is Y105, Dubuque's #1 hit music station. My name is Steve Pulaski. My next guest is partly responsible for some of your childhood favorites. He was a producer on the popular PBS show Teletubbies and even worked on Thomas and Friends as well. He's juggling a plethora of projects at the moment, including Blackjack, an adaptation of an award-winning graphic novel series, a horror thriller feature film that's been in the works for over a decade, and a climate education initiative for children. Those projects, just to name a few. He is Kenn Viselman. He joins me now. Kenn, how are you today?
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well, Kenn. I appreciate you asking, man. Before we get to your current projects, walk me through your background, Kenn. I know you've got hands in a lot of different pots, but you're somebody who has a real presence in children's entertainment. How did you end up in that field?
You know, my dad used to say that I was the luckiest person in the world, not because I showed up at the right time in the right place, but that I showed up at the right time in the right place and I knew what to do when I got there, you know? And he said that was a true skill. That's how you know you're the luckiest person in the world. I had absolutely no intentions of being in the entertainment space at all. I used to work in the garment industry and was quite successful there. By the time I was 30 years old, we had already done some number of $1 billion in the clothing world, you know? My job was always the marketing side of it. And I'm a fashionable guy. I like fashion, but, you know, it wasn't my passion. And one day it was just kind of like, you know, you're living your life, you're doing your thing. And then suddenly you have like a tsunami hits your personal life. And the next thing you know, you're ending up doing something you didn't intend to do. You know, the one thing I always do is I just try to stay open to the opportunities that are around me. And an opportunity came up. I got a call from someone and who said, I understand that you're responsible for the marketing of this clothing brand. And I said I was. And they're like, have you ever worked on television or marketing TV or licensing? And I said, no, but I'd be happy to come in and talk to you. And the next thing I knew, I was working on Thomas the Tank Engine, and it wasn't the plan. And I had, you know, I was just open to whatever the world brought me, you know. I'll just tell you a little story about this. So I really didn't have any understanding about the kids space. I just thought it's entertainment, it's kids television. I bet I could make a good living doing it. And that was truly my sole reason. If we were on video right now, I would show you two things that I've carried around with me since 1989, which is a photograph of a little boy who changed my life forever, and a little girl who had no idea the impact she had in my life. So it's okay if I tell you this little story?
Go for it.
Okay. So I'd only been at the job for a few months. I had a couple of assistants. It was very crazy. There was a lot of stuff going on. And I got a phone call, and normally phone calls didn't come directly through me. They went to someone who then went to someone else before it got to me, as though I was somehow like the chairman of a giant oil company or something, you know. And somehow or other, this call just got put right through. And I pick it up, and it's a mother who's telling me a story about how she has this 6-year-old child who's autistic and has never spoken. And she was watching, she had put him in front of the TV, and when the Thomas segment came on Shining Time Station, he stopped shaking. He was in a catatonic state most of the day, but when it came on, he just stopped and he was transfixed on the screen. And somehow the mother knew that she could get to her kid through Thomas the Tank Engine. So she called to say, do we have any product at all? You know, anything. She would buy whatever we had, books, clothes, whatever. And I'm like, oh, we're not going to charge you for that. And we don't have a lot of product, but I'll have somebody send you something. So truth is, I went into a stockroom. There was very little stuff. There was this one T-shirt that had been overprinted. So it was too stiff, and we rejected it, but it was in this box. So I said, okay, just put this stuff together, send it to the mother, and off it went. When I didn't know that my assistant had put little Thomas stickers and everything all over the outside of the box. When the box arrived, so anyway, when it left, I never thought about them again. That's the honest truth. And I was a cold-hearted TV producer, marketing guy, and didn't really think about the audience. That's really quite honest. Anyway, short of this, the story's going on forever. I'm sorry about that. But about 3 weeks later, I get some mail, and I'm going through the mail. And as I open up a letter, this Polaroid picture comes out, and it was like slow motion tumbling out of the letter and onto my desk. And as it was spinning, I saw that it was a kid wearing this over-dyed T-shirt. And I'm like, oh, I know who that is. That's his mother who called. When I read the letter basically said, that when the box arrived, there were Thomas stickers all over the outside. So she said to her son, oh, there's something from Thomas. And the kid just got up and ran right to the box. As she's opening it, she takes out the T-shirt, shows it to him, and he says, choo-choo, which is the first word that he'd ever spoken. Through this relationship, the kid put this T-shirt on, wore it for 6 days. She had to bathe him in it. And somehow or other, they found a path in for her to be able to connect to her child. In that moment, I understood what my job was. It changed my life forever. And I've never spoken to them again. It's not like we're friends. There's no Hollywood ending, except that it changed me forever. And it made that the work that I did, I understood that kids live in the same world we do. They just receive the information differently. And that when we make something impactful, it can change a child and a family's life forever. And that's truly what happened. I carry that picture around whenever I'm going to a business meeting, whenever I'm talking to someone about production, I look at this little kid in that Polaroid picture that I've had forever.
That is priceless stuff right there, Ken. I really appreciate you sharing that.
It changed, man. I'm telling you, the other thing that happened, the same day I got this other letter from a little girl who loved Thomas and wanted to know what he ate for breakfast. Did he like to dance? And could she come to the island of Sodor with her family on holiday? And, it just reinforced for me that I have an obligation to make stuff that is really good and really, really tests children's imagination and makes the world more magical and less frightening. That's the point that I was getting to.
I love it. He's Kenn Viselman. Again, his background in film and TV and children's entertainment is vast. I greatly appreciate it. It's hard to kind of follow up just those meaningful stories and such.
I'm sure it is.
you set the platform very high right out of the gate, but I really appreciate this invaluable wisdom and this perspective too, Ken. I want to give you the opportunity, though, to talk about some of your current projects. I guess we can start with Blackjack. It's based on a graphic novel series by Alex Simmons. What's this project all about, my friend?
Let me tell you the thing about this project, and every project that I do, based on the stories that I just told you, which is why I gave you that long preamble, is that I want to make shows that are meaningful, that are more than just commercial. And producers have a tendency to think, I can either make a lot of money or make something great. And those two things are not in conflict. You make a lot of money when you make something great. And you serve an audience. Blackjack is an extraordinarily important project because it's been written by this guy, Alex Simmons. He's the humblest, the most talented person I've ever worked with. And he has this great understanding of the world at large. So Alex created a character who's a mercenary gun for hire that lives in the 1930s. He's a black guy who is determined to not be marginalized and minimized. He's determined to be treated as an equal. Now, when he's out in the world, saving the world, right, because he gets hired by governments to do things that the governments themselves can't get done, he's a one-man wrecking crew. If he's in Europe, if he's in Asia, wherever he is, he's treated like a king, a hero, a god. When he comes home to America, he can't drink out of a public water faucet because it's the 1930s in America. And it's the kind of water cooler conversations that stem from these stories. It's quite extraordinary because Alex does it in a very subtle way where he gets you to look at the world today based on what the world was like in the 1930s. And yes, it's a graphic novel series, and yes, people don't take comic books seriously, but the stories that this guy's telling, he tells them in a way that are powerful, entertaining, and have the potential to change the way we talk about race relations in America. So I feel very, very strongly about this project. And I believe that it's like uncovering a new form of dinosaur or something. I believe this is the next Spider-Man, the next Black Panther. It's a very, very important project that we are and have been navigating for quite a number of years to make sure we do it correct.
Where can people keep an eye out for Blackjack, Ken?
The graphic novels are available. Alex has been self-producing and self-publishing these things, so you can find them. We have stopped that for a commercial reason, but on Amazon you could still find them. And the plan is that the first season, because we are now looking at the on-screen version, so whether we do it the first as a feature film or a series, we're flexible because we believe both are coming. But we are using Blood and Honor, which was the second graphic novel in the series, for the first thing that we produce, whether it's for TV or film.
You mentioned, too, when we were corresponding in email, that you have a project that's been in the works for over a decade. Production could very well potentially start this spring. It's a project called Spot. What is it and why the long road to being realized, Ken?
I brought in a number of writers over the years. I had this idea. I don't want to ruin it for your audience, but I had an idea based on a couple of things that happened in the real world. And I kept saying, why hasn't anybody ever made a movie about this? It's such a freaking great idea. It's very simple. It's very clean. Most of the movie takes place in the back of a white, rusted old panel van where these two best friends have been kidnapped. They don't know why. They don't know by whom. And they are not both going to survive by the end of this adventure that they go on, right? And so it's taken a long time because of funding, and it's been really screwed up. And we've had the funding for this film 3 times, and 3 times it fell out. Nothing to do with the film. So it's one of these things that I think the universe is testing me to see how committed am I to it. We were supposed to be filming the movie literally right now, and the funding fell through. And now a new group of people have come up to me over the last 3 weeks to suggest that they want to step up and put up the funding. It's a crazy ride that's both a thriller and a horror movie in one. And so it's kind of this sui genre kind of thing. And I think it's going to really be a big hit with audiences. It's planned as a trilogy.
I like the sound of that too, Ken. What other current projects would you like to highlight while I got you on the line?
Well, I'll tell you the other project that I think is just massive importance is a project called Meteor Heroes. It's like meteorology and heroes together, Meteor Heroes. And it's a really, really brilliant series for kids about climate education. And I've done a lot of research on this, and there was a study taken a few years ago at Bath University in England where they discovered that 86% of kids across the globe are worried to extremely worried about the planet. And they're suffering from a condition called eco-anxiety. Everyone knows that kids are suffering from anxiety, and America's education system is saying that they're upset because of COVID and because of missing school. And I'm like, look, I know a lot of kids. I don't know any of them. They're ever upset because they miss school. They're upset because they have an existential crisis that they think that the Earth is not going to be here when they're old enough to deal with it. They think that the governments are lying to them. They don't think that people are doing enough. And this series is just, I know this is going to sound like an oxymoron or something, but it's a really fun adventure series for kids about climate. And so it gives them a great deal of information. We're using Meteor Heroes. We had it on in 216 countries across the globe, and we're slowly taking it off air because we want to launch it as part of the largest climate education initiative anywhere in the world. And I'm very excited about it. We have 30,000 schools in America that have expressed interest in doing it with us. We have relations with public television who've said that they're excited to do it with us. And it's really just a funding issue now. but we're very, very close to making an announcement about it. And I do think it's going to change. It's going to change the world for kids.
Is there any place where people can go to find out more information about that? I understand it's in its early stages, but is there anything, any social media, any website, any place where people can find literature on it?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, we did do something for PBS where we have the origin story of the Me Too heroes available on their 24/7 platform. So you can find that episode there. There is some stuff. We've made it a little bit of a treasure hunt, so you can find stuff on YouTube. There is a Me Too Heroes Instagram page, so you could go there and see some stuff. We have about a couple 100,000 people or so that follow that page. And the rest of it, I guess you just have to be asking your schools, why don't we have Me Too Heroes in our classrooms? Because that's the first step. It's a two-pronged approach where we go into classrooms in America and we go onto public television. So it will be a very, very broad and exciting thing that has a great deal of information that we send home to kids on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays when it launches. And the plan is to launch this initiative for Earth Day 2026.
You came on my radar back in 2012 with the release of the Oogieloves and the Big Balloon Adventure. That was designed to be an interactive movie theater experience for children. And I remember seeing all the in-theater marketing and such for that movie. And I remember thinking at the time, like, what an uphill battle that had to be, trying to market new characters to kids and then have the movie come out at the end of August when kids are going back to school. Walk me through what that process was like, getting the Oogieloves off the ground.
It was brilliant and exciting, and everything about it was amazing until the day we released the film. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough. Lovely guy, Mike Churko, wanted to change the world and wanted to make a film the kids would really get into with their families. He's a real family guy, lovely, lovely man. So he reached out to me. Long story short, we had this idea for a story, and I was only interested in making a movie if it could be an interactive experience. Things like Disney on Ice and some of those things were so expensive that we thought, could we turn a movie theater into that kind of an environment? So we tested the movie after we made it with 10,000 kids across America. I had a little private plane, and my crew went from town to town and invited people to come and watch it. And the way kids responded to this movie was pure joy. They were up and dancing. We gave them all the cues, everything they needed. The problem was I was very naive to believe that Hollywood would allow an independent producer to bypass the studio system altogether to design, create, market, produce, and put a film into 3,600 screens without any help from the studios. And they didn't like it. So Entertainment Weekly gave the movie an A-. But all the other magazines and newspapers that were owned by the big studios or their parent companies, they were not going to allow an independent producer to be a success. So they went out and they lambasted this movie. They made fun of me. They made fun of my mother. It was a very, very harsh thing that we went through. And the movie suffered and kids suffered as a result. Fortunately, we did do a deal with Lionsgate. We did a deal with Netflix, and we got the movie out there. And there were all these rumors that the movie lost tons of money. It's just not true. It was just all propaganda to try to keep me from putting another movie on 3,600 screens without the studios attached. And, in the end, it was really unfortunate. I will tell you the upside that nobody knows is that we are making an adult comedy with the Oogieloves of Where Are They Now? It's 12 years later, 13, 14 years later, where are they? And it turns out in our made-up story, which will be costume characters in the real world, they borrowed money from the mob in order to make their movie, and the mob now owns them. And it's a very funny, very dark comedy, and I believe the Oogieloves are going to have the last laugh in this process.
Is that written? Is that already like pen to paper?
Yes. We're literally taking it out at the beginning of the new year.
I love that. I'm going to have to get you back on the line when that starts really getting into motion too, Kenn.
Yeah, you're going to love it. I'm telling you, it is so funny. Zuzi is a go-go dancer. Toothy's an enforcer. It's really, really funny.
It's like that dark Banana Splits movie that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, just they go in there. That's the groove. I think it's funnier than that was, but that's the groove.
There's something to be said about that now, too, because, there's that twisted childhood universe with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and Screamboat Willie and stuff. There's something to be said. There was that documentary on Barney that's like, I love you, you hate me, about the Barney internet humor and stuff. There's something to be said about, like, especially my generation, because you really made stuff for that, like, catered to my generation now as I push 30. Like, there's something to be said now with entertainment, like childhood properties now that take on this darker tone for kind of like the jaded millennials or something like that. I feel like you're tapping into that with the revival of the Oogieloves as like an adult comedy.
That's the idea, but it's more, the philosophy is we want our content to be able to grow with our audience. So I'll still make kid stuff. I love making kid stuff. But I love the idea that the kid that was 6 and is now 26, his interests or her interests are different. Like they're into that kind of true crime, or they're into horror or thriller or something else. So the idea that we can use those characters to age with them, I think that's a pretty fun and pretty novel approach to content.
How do you reflect on the Oogieloves now, just in general? Like, did the experience, I would assume, just, teach you anything? I know you said you've at least thought now, kind of in hindsight, you were naive to believe that they would embrace a kind of an independent project like that. But where does it sit in your mind right now? Do you still get talked about, or do you still get people coming up to you about it and stuff like that? Do you still see it having an impact with kids?
I have a huge fan base for this movie, which is crazy. There isn't a single day that goes by that I don't have 2 or 3, at least, people sending notes saying, can we make another Oogieloves movie? Where is it? Why haven't, they're just huge fans. And the truth is, the second and third movie for the Oogieloves exists. The script, I have the scripts. They're ready to go. Do you know what I mean? So it's, we had to make a creative decision. Would we rather continue the franchise as we did, knowing the obstacles we are going to get, knowing the difficulties that the studios are going to make for us? And, it's almost like a dare on their part. They dare me to do it. It's a bad plan. Don't ever dare me. You'll lose, So we have that notion. And the question is, we think that this adult comedy is going to be funnier, and have a more specific audience. But I'm very, very seriously considering how I'm going to introduce those second and third films.
What's the project you're most proud of, Kenn, that you wish more people would see, or maybe deserves another kind of promotional push?
That's interesting. They're kind of all like children. I know people always answer questions like that, and it sounds like they're being, they don't want to answer the question. But I'm proud of each one of the projects that I've done. And I've worked on 50 or more kids projects, kids and family stuff. So, but if I'm completely honest, the very first kids show I was ever involved with is a show called TOTS TV, TOTS TV. It was the most ambitious project of all the shows, and I've done some very, very ambitious projects. But it was the very first kids bilingual television show. It opened the door for Dora to come television, right? The puppetry is unfreaking believable. So, it is online. If you find the episode of TOTS TV where they go ice skating, it will blow your mind that is puppetry. We really believe in magic, and the people that I did that show with are my co-creating partners on the Teletubbies, right? I love that show. But I'm really proud of the legacy, of the shows that I've made. I don't regret making any of them, actually.
He's Kenn Viselman. Really great to make your acquaintance, Ken, and chat with you just about your entire, or at least a portion, I would say, of your filmography. I mean, I think we've just scratched the surface of all that you're about and what's coming up for you, too. I love your ambition. I love your drive. I want to give you the final word, though, to talk about anything else, anything we missed, or how can people find you online? Where can people learn more about the work that you do, man? I kind of just want to leave you with the final word. What you got?
I appreciate that. I'm a bit of a hermit, so it's a bit of a challenge to find me. That's why I was fascinated that you found me so easily. I thought that was more complicated than that. I think here's if I could leave a message, I think we're living in a pretty dark time right now, and that anything that we can do to put more love in the world, we need to do it. We need to do it as individuals. We need to just go up to random strangers and just do something to make their lives better. We've got a lot of darkness, and kids are picking up emotional cues from the adults in their lives. So if they need to see us being more loving with each other, if we're going to get on the other side of this kind of crap that we're living through right now.
Very wise words right there. Again, Kenn Viselman, look him up online. His IMDb page will give you a lot of different things to look into and see the depths of his catalog. Ken, I really appreciate your time, and I want to link up with you again when the Oogieloves adult comedy gets off the ground, man, because you've got me 10 toes in that like soccer shoes. I would watch the hell out of that opening weekend.
I'm sure you will, and I'll when I hang up with you, I'm going to send you an image. Right, that's just something we're mocking up right now, and you'll see where we're going. It's pretty fun.
I cannot wait for that. Again, Kenn Viselman, I greatly appreciate your time, my friend. I wish you nothing but a great holiday season and a very prosperous new year in 2026.
Right back at you. Thanks so much.